Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about how I made this cascading petal, actually little tiny flower wedding cake. Sometimes simplicity says more than when things are overworked. So I thought this was a nice change of pace, and we'll get right to it. We're gonna make the petals first. This one is really pretty straightforward. So I'm just using some gum paste and I'm conditioning it, which means I am kneading it, working it in my hands so that the heat of my hands and the pushing it around and squishing it makes it more elastic. You can see how elastic it becomes after kneading it for a while. Now I'm rolling it out very thin, maybe a little less than 1/8 of an inch thick. You can see the pattern of the table underneath it. It's that thin. And then I am just using this 4-petal cutter. It's actually intended for hydrangeas, but I'm going to use it. Well, I mean, I guess you could still call them hydrangea petals. Just because they don't have the color doesn't mean they aren't, right? I mean, are there white hydrangea plants? I don't know, but I guess it doesn't matter. Anyway, after I cut them out, then I'm just putting them in my little flour saver or my gum paste. It keeps everything from getting dry. And then I just work on a few petals at a time. I'm just using my ball tool on a piece of foam to thin out those edges and cup the petals or the flowers just a little bit. Now when you're doing these, hydrangea petals are not all identical. So you can actually try to intentionally make them all a little different. I mean, you're gonna have replicas of the same basic shape, obviously, because it's not that much material to work with. But don't worry if some of them aren't perfect. If some petals are kind of laying off to the side a little bit, droopy, that makes it look even more realistic. So here's all the petals, and guys, that's not it. I ended up having to go in and doing 200 more. There were 400 of these little flowers on this cake. Not kidding. Yeah. And I actually had to make 200 more because we did sugar cookies that each sugar cookie had a flower on it also. So yeah, that was a lot of flowers. Now here I'm just leveling off my cakes. I'm taking the dome off using a serrated knife. You can actually buy a cake leveler that does that for you, but I just prefer to do it myself, I guess, because those cake levelers always seem to break on me. I guess I'm too rough on them. So I just do it freehand. And then I simple syrup them. And these are all the same flavor, I believe. I think they were the cinnamon roll. Yeah, it's a cinnamon roll cake, which actually has cream cheese and cinnamon mixed together in it. And then I did cream cheese filling, and then I just sprinkled some cinnamon on top of that. And I am putting a dam in between, that right there is the dam. And that is a thickened ring of buttercream around your filling to keep it from bulging out. Now, if you're doing buttercream or ganache in the middle, if your buttercream is super thick, which the video I filmed today, it's not this one, it's a different one. You'll see it in the future. But my buttercream is so thick that I didn't have to actually do a dam. But, good practice is just to go ahead and do a thickened dam just to be on the safe side. Prevents bulging, and nobody wants bulging. And then I had each layer or each tier I put in the freezer for about 10 minutes while I worked on the next one. That's kind of the way I do it. I work on one, put it in the freezer, work on the next one, put it in the freezer, work on the next one, like that. And then, so this is just my crumb coat. This is what's going to lock your crumbs into your cake so that when you do your final coating of buttercream, you're not going to see the crumbs. They're going to be locked underneath there. And this is my final coat of buttercream. Each tier, as I said, had been chilled, so they're nice and firm to the touch, which makes putting your last layer of buttercream on even easier because as you are working with it, it's starting to set up a little bit, which makes it, for me, a little easier to work with because I've been doing this long enough that I'm kind of pretty quick at it. But if you are more of a beginner or just don't do it all the time and I don't want to say out of practice, but haven't had time to really work on your speed, you could just use a refrigerator if you don't want your buttercream to firm up too fast. And I'm just making sure that I have those crisp corners. Since there's not going to be any other decoration besides the flowers, I need to make sure that these tiers are as perfect as I can get them. Now I just had some air bubbles, so I just scraped the air bubbles out and then just filled it back in with some buttercream. Air bubbles are going to happen, guys. They're just going to happen. And I find it's a little bit easier to just go ahead and remove the air bubble and fill it in than try to work with it. And when we do wedding cakes in particular, or 3-tiered cakes in general, we do like to do a double layer of cake drum. And these cake drums are just glued together with hot glue. And then I'm using a piece of rolled up tape to attach my cake to the boards. And I just had taken the cake out of the refrigerator and placed it on the board. Actually, it was in the freezer. I take that back and placed it on the board, and it stuck. They stick just fine with the tape rolled up. And then each of my skewers and straws are not skewers, but supports, and my straws are all cut to the same length so that your cake is level. And then I fill in the gap in between with a little bit of buttercream and remove it with a scraper. And the same goes for the top tier. I just used 5 straws instead of the 2 rows of 5 for your supports. And then I just sharpen my dowel. And I'm just going to shove it through. You'll be surprised at how easy it goes through your cake boards. But then you get towards the end, and I like to go ahead and use a mallet, and then I just use an extra piece of dowel to pound it underneath the surface of the cake. It's a little shy of being the same height as the cake. It's about 2 inches shorter than the rest of the cake, so you can fill it in, and no one is any the wiser that there's a dowel in there. Then we just put a little ribbon in between each tier. I just attached it with a little buttercream, I believe, for the one that's touching the cake, and then a little double-sided tape on the other end that's only resting against the ribbon. So that tape is not touching the cake at all. And I use the same ribbon around the base of the cake on the drums. And then I'm just using a little buttercream to attach these. On the top, I left it full. You could even put a little mound of buttercream, or not a little one, but a mound of buttercream on top of the top tier if you want it more kind of domed. But that was not the look we were going for. We did have an inspiration photo. So I just followed the photo and did what I think they did. I would tag them, but since this was an order at work, I don't know who did the original. But then as you're going down, you just kind of space them out a little bit. The top tier is almost completely full, and then it tapers down to the bottom. And here we are at the venue. This is the lovely Addie. She just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. She is my boss and one of my best friends. So she likes to deliver, well, though it's my cake box, my insulated box, but she has this little cart that she uses. I could not use this little cart because I would never be able to stand back up again. Then you can see the cookies there. I'm trying to film and hold a tray of cookies at the same time. So I apologize if it's a little jumpy. They're talking to her while she's trying to get the cake back there. And I don't know who this gentleman is, but I don't think you can see his face. I think I cut it out just in time for a little privacy. I don't like to invade in people's privacy. And this is one of my favorite venues because it's on a golf course and it's got a gorgeous view out the back, which is hard for you to see because of the glare of the midday sun. And the florist had already put flowers around the cake stand. And I watch her lift this up. How on earth can she just, I don't know. She's young. That's all I got to say. She's young. And I did have to put the camera down because I had to help her get it on the stand. Her fingers were stuck. I think here she's kind of expressing that she got a little bit of hurt on her fingers. And you can kind of see the venue in the background there. It's absolutely gorgeous with that fireplace and everything. And then the picture was done by a local photographer, and I will tag her in the video description. This is her photo. I think it really captured the look of the cake in that venue better than I could do. So I hope you liked it. Hope you learned something, and we'll catch you on the next one.